Hello, everyone. I'd just like to say that I'm very happy and very excited to be a speaker with the upcoming Unveiling Lemuria course with Portal to Ascension. So this is a 2-day online conference, and it takes place over the weekend of Saturday, the 27th of July and Sunday, the 28th of July. So my guidance system, angelic consciousness, whatever name you want to give to that aspect of your own expanded quantum memory that I have been in communication with for over 20 years now, and beyond that, if you look at childhood experiences, I name this structure the white-winged collective consciousness of nine. So one could see them as angels or spirit guides or extraterrestrials. But I've been in communication with them consciously in various guises, if you will, for over 20 years. And they have spoken to me over time about different epochs, different time periods that we have had, that we've experienced, or that we are experiencing in the quantum reality. Different time periods that we might know as epochs, one of them being Lemuria. So they have spoken to me about the time that many of us know as Lemuria. So I'm happy to be a speaker at this conference. So the conference is called Unveiling Lemuria, and it's with Portal to Ascension. So the nine, I affectionately call them the nine, this guidance structure, they've talked about this Lemurian consciousness, and Lemuria as an epoch or a time period rather than a place. It's a consciousness in and of itself, a consciousness or a period of time or an epoch. And within that Lemurian consciousness, they've told me that there are many different stages to that. It took place over billions and billions and billions of years. They talk about the time that we as a humanity came into being, how we first came into being on this planet that we know as Earth, and how we progressed from a consciousness, a blueprint, if you will, into the physical human form that we are now, that we express now. They've spoken to me about the importance of water at the time that we know as a Lemuria, and how we in our earlier forms in this Lemurian time, this Lemurian epoch, we lived in the water and we migrated out of water onto the land. And they call those beings, the previous incarnations of us, those Lemurian beings, they call them the mermaids of Mu. They've also spoken to me of the blue people or the rainbow people. And they've spoken of the later stages of Lemuria where we lived in complete harmony with the earth at that time. They've specifically discussed the type of nutrition that the Lemurian people ate in the later stages of their Lemurian development and how we can mimic that today. So they've talked to me about several different things that occurred at the time we know as Lemuria. It's a vast, vast body of knowledge, and there's so much that they haven't spoken to me about. They've also shown me how to access my memories that are potentially personal, as in my own incarnational line, but also memories that are collective, that we all hold, because we all hold collective memory of these different epochs, these previous Earths, if you will. So we all hold memory of Lemuria within our cellular structure, and we can access that memory. They have spoken to me of Lemuria as a living consciousness and how it exists within us, how it's being replicated, it's being revisited and recreated by us, And there are great similarities between Lemuria and what we know as New Earth. The other concept they mention, which is of great importance, is the connection between Lemuria and what we know as the elemental realm and the beings that existed at that time. We know in our fantasy world as dragons and fairies and unicorns, but these fantasy beings, they live within our collective memory, within the times I'm speaking about, the Lemurian times, the Lemurian epoch. My presentation for this conference is entitled Ancient Lemuria, New Earth, because I want to present the connection between ancient Lemuria, all those billions of years ago, and New Earth, which is something that is beginning to present itself now, something that is being formed and is coming. So we're moving back into deeply ancient times, beyond our known history, into an unknown history, if you will. And we're also looking at something that's yet to come, something that's only just beginning, and the connection between our memory of what came before and our creation of what is yet to come on a collective level. So within my presentation for this conference, Ancient Lemuria, New Earth is my title for my conference, and I will be asking the white-winged collective consciousness of 9 a few questions. Now, the questions I would like to ask them, we may get to all of the questions. I may only be able to answer 1 or 2, or I may be able to answer more. I never know how that will go or how comprehensive the 9's responses will be. But I want to present to you the questions, or some of the questions I'd like to ask them. So first of all, I would like to ask the 9 to speak more about the very beginning of the time we know as Lemuria. Some people refer to this as the Hyperborean epoch. And I know that there's an overlap, if you will, as we leave one epoch and we move to another epoch. That is a time that is not necessarily calculated within the overall time clock of reality. It's like a gap of creation where one epoch ends and another begins. And we're actually in that now. In our year of 2024, we are in an overlap between the old epoch and the new epoch, but that's a whole other issue, but obviously is connected. So that's one thing I would like to ask them. And another question I'd like to ask them is, what did we as a humanity or a human form, what did we look like as we moved within this overlap time from Hyperborea into Lemuria? What did we look like? And what exactly marked the beginning of Lemuria? How do we know when Lemuria began? And that connects to how do we know when New Earth begins? So that's a question I would like to ask them. And then moving to the later stages of the Lemurian civilization, when we became more physical, what was life like then? How can our knowing about this Lemurian epoch and this later life stage help us in our current existence now? What lessons can we learn from Lemuria that we can utilize today? Another question I'd like to ask them is, are we existing within a cycle, and are we moving back within that cycle to Lemuria? As in, is this the same Lemuria that we're moving back to? Are we cycling back in time to what we have done before? Or are we moving to a totally new Lemuria? Is it a different Lemuria? So when we're moving in a cycle, are we going back to the same point that we were once at? Or are we cycling round more in a spiral and going to a similar time period that's perhaps upgraded, or that perhaps holds a consciousness that is more knowing, that is more aware? I'd also like to ask them, is there an actual physical place on Earth that is Lemuria or that holds physical remnants of Lemuria? So is there an actual physical place on our Earth that is Lemuria or that holds physical remnants of Lemuria? I'd like to ask them that. I'm going to also ask them more about the mermaids of Mu. So these are a lot of questions, and I can't guarantee I'll get through all of them. It depends on the responses. If the responses are quite concise and small, I can get through all these questions. But if the 9 talk extensively in response to the first question, then I may not get to all this material. But this is how I intend to communicate with them as a framework for this talk. So the mermaids of Mu, I'd like to know more. And with the mermaids of Mu, is this a metaphor or is it literal? Now, they have said we lived underwater. So how are these mermaids of Mu literal? Or is it both? Is there a metaphoric aspect to what these water-dwelling beings were? What did these mermaids look like? And how can we know if we lived a life as one of these mermaids? They mentioned the blue people or the rainbow people. So were these people, the blue people, the rainbow people, were they a breakaway community from the original Lemuria in the later stages of development? Or are all Lemurians to be described this way? Can all Lemurians be described as blue or rainbow individuals? I'd like to ask the 9 also about the elemental aspect of Lemuria, and within that, the nutritional path they speak of, which they call the Lemurian way. So if this nutritional path can be replicated today, the Lemurian way, if we eat this way, will we feel more connected to Lemuria, ancient Lemuria or new Lemuria? And will we feel more connected to the Lemurian consciousness, the Lemurian people? Will we feel more connected to our Lemurian self if we eat the way that they are talking about within the Lemurian way? Can we create the new Lemuria by following this way of eating? As in, is what we eat part of the magical creation of the new epoch? So that's another question I'd like to present to them. So this is how I would like to structure the talk within this conference. As I said, I don't know exactly how they will respond to these questions, so we shall find out. So please do join me as I ask the 9 these questions, and if we can get through all of these, then potentially more questions. When I speak for the Portal to Ascension conference, Unveiling Lemuria, a journey into an ancient land and a hidden history, Saturday, July 27th and Sunday, July 28th. So you can sign up to this conference at portaltoascension.org. When you get onto the website, go to the events tab, and in the drop-down menu, click on upcoming online events, and then scroll down to see the Unveiling Lemuria conference. You'll be able to see all the speakers, get familiar with the speakers, and you will be able to learn more about what this conference is about. I hope I've given you a clue or a guideline as to my particular talk, but you'll be able to have a look at the whole conference as an overview. And I'd just like to say before closing, thank you for listening to me. And just to say, remember, these conferences are not just about delivering knowledge to you. They're not just about sharing information. They're activating tools, triggering your own innate knowing and memory system as you yourself move through the portal to ascension, which is a great name for this this conference, this group of conferences, this structure, because there really is a portal to ascension. And these speakers that come together to create these conferences create the portal along with you as those who listen and lend their energy to the overall structure. So I hope I've given you a guideline of what I will be talking about. I'm very excited to be speaking. I look forward to it. I hope to see you there. And I'd just like to say lots of love, and please do enjoy the conference.